So, full disclosure, I have recorded this tutorial more than once and I've had to throw it out because in every one of those tutorials I sounded really angry and upset. So, let's do this all over again. PT Academic, focus on speaking. My name is Rena from Perth IELTS and PTE Tutoring, and I'm a private tutor based in Perth, Western Australia. Let's get straight into it. So what will we cover in this tute today? We're going to cover all question types in the speaking part of the test, the most important question types, and then techniques and methods for high scores, or in general, just how to tackle these questions. Okay, so in the speaking test, you have a total of 7 questions. There were previously 5 in August 2025, and then they added 2 new ones, which were at the bottom: summarize group discussion and respond to a situation. At the beginning of the test, you're going to have read aloud 6 to 7 times, but it is not the most important question type and it assesses only your speaking. The second question type that you will see is repeat sentence. You will have to do this question type 10 to 12 times and it assesses both your speaking and listening. And if you notice here for the ranking of importance, it is the third most important question type in the test. Then you have describe image. Third question type that you will see, you have to do this 5 to 6 times, assesses only your speaking, but it is the single most important question type of the test. It contributes up to 31% of your speaking score, and that is really, really important. Okay, for after that, you have Retell Lecture, 2 to 3 times, is the fourth most important question type. Answer short question, summarize group discussion, 2 to 3 times, and it is the second most important question type in the speaking test. Funny that. And then you have respond to a situation, which is the sixth most important question type, but still far more important than things like answer short question. Okay, you'll have to do a respond to a situation type question 2 to 3 times. Okay, now that we've breezed through all the question types, what do we need to know and what basics do we need to have? So, first thing you need to know is that all speaking questions for PT Academic are in part 1 of the test. So part 1 of the test includes speaking and writing, and the 7 question types are all in one go. Unlike for reading, listening, and writing, where some marks can be contributed in different parts of the test, speaking is fully assessed in part 1. The entire speaking part of the test can range from 36 to 44 minutes, depending on how long you talk and how much time you take. Okay? The next thing you need to know is that PT Academic Speaking is scored using Pearson's Versant technology. Now, Versant is used by Pearson for other things, for like employees to assess potential employers to assess potential employees. And the thing you need to know is that it is not a large language model like ChatGPT or DeepSeek or any other publicly available AI platforms. Versant is proprietary, meaning Pearson is the only one that has access to it. And that also means that all your practice platforms that you use from Ape Uni to Alpha PTE do not have the software. If they don't have the software, including all the latest AI softwares, none of them actually have Pearson's Versant tech. If you don't have the software, you don't actually know how accurately you're being assessed. Okay, it's not the same as just assuming Ape Uni or Alpha PTE marks come close. The only way to know how accurately, as accurately as possible, what your level is to either do an official Pearson practice test or the full exam itself. Okay, so now that I've clarified that, I will move on because this is where all the previous recordings I've just gone off on a tangent and become rather angry with Pearson. So I'm just going to stop there. Okay? Okay? So, general thoughts about PT Academic Speaking. Before August 2025, we used to concentrate heavily on fluency. We no longer need to concentrate heavily on fluency because content is king. And this has been my thoughts from the beginning. So if you look at older tutes, like Describe Image from last year, well before August, you will see that I concentrate heavily on content. The other thing that you need to learn is that clarity of thought equals clarity of speech. If you are clear in your mind about what you need to do, what is expected of you, and how to do something, you will find that speaking becomes easier. Okay? The other thing you need to know is what influences your fluency. Your fluency is greatly influenced by your ability to speak at a consistent, constant rate or speed, with every word easily identified by PTE's AI. Now, this is really important because when you are speaking, you may think that you can hear every word you're saying. But if the AI can't identify every valid consonant and every valid vowel within the word to make that word, it is not going to detect the word. Okay? So you need to speak consistently at the same volume, at the same speed, and every word you say needs to be pronounced in such a way that it can be identified by AI. Okay? Pronunciation matters to a lesser extent, but it can be lowered by accents, natural linguistic nuances, and speed of speech. So, what do I mean by accents? One example is, say, a very thick Scottish accent. Sometimes AI may struggle to understand it, even though a Scottish person is most likely going to be a native English speaker. Natural linguistic nuances. Now, when you speak to a human being, if you're from a different country and there are certain ways people speak English and there are certain ways Italians speak English, these nuances influence AI, unfortunately. Okay? They say it doesn't, but it does. Right? And of course, speed of speech. Some races and some people from certain countries speak really quickly in their native language. For example, native Spanish speakers from Latin America tend to speak faster than Spanish speakers from Spain. Okay? Right. The other thing you need to know is that human assessors do exist, but I can neither confirm nor deny or tell you exactly when they are involved. Okay, of the seven speaking questions, four include a human expert review of content. Who are the assessors? We're not sure. What percentage of tests are assessed by them? Not sure. Okay, I don't know what triggers the attendance of a human assessors. They haven't said if there's a guaranteed every candidate will be assessed by a human assessor. Pearson has not come out and told us yet. They have recently released a score guide for teachers, but in there they did not clarify what percentage of candidates are assessed by human beings. Okay, so now we can move on specifically to question types. We're going to go in order of most important to least important. Okay, and I will try not to go off on a tangent. So let's start straight up with the single most important question of the whole exam: describe an image. We will start off every time with what you need to know, how the question type is scored, and then we will move on to the method. I don't know yet if I can fit in demonstrations for this tute. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, or maybe I'll do it in a separate tute because I have a sick child at home and it's not easy. He's right here. He's right there. Anyways, let's get straight into it. Describe an image. What do you need to know? This is the single most important question type in the whole test. It's the third question type in the speaking part of the test, and you will have to do this question type 5 to 6 times. It contributes to your speaking score only, with up to 31% of your final speaking score. You have 25 seconds to look at an image. It can be of anything. It can be a pie chart, it can be a photograph, it can be a line graph, it can be a bar graph, it can be a map. Whatever image you can think of, it is subject to description. Okay? After 25 seconds, you will hear a beep, and then you have 40 seconds to speak about the image. Now, you will find the questions are all scored quite similarly. We have a 655 scoring system: 6 marks for content, 5 marks for pronunciation, and 5 marks for fluency. Nowhere in there do they talk about marks for grammar. Nowhere do they talk about marks for vocabulary. It's content, fluency, pronunciation. Okay? And they say that covers all of it. All right? So let's talk about the method. Righto? So in the first 25 seconds, you need to be absolutely ready for it. Where do your eyes need to be? It needs to be focused on only one thing, the image. You will find on test day that you are constantly adjusting your mouse cursor, you're moving your keyboard, you're looking around at the other guys yelling at you. No. When it comes to describe image, you are looking straight down at the image, and the first thing you're going to do is you are going to tell yourself exactly what kind of image it is. A line graph, a photo, a bar graph, a pie chart, a table. Your job is to identify exactly what you are looking at. Next, if there is a title, you need to look at it and read it. Okay? Then you are going to start interpreting. By interpret, I don't even mean interpret. I mean literally just look at the image from top to bottom, left to right. I'm going to say it again for those of you in the back. From the top to the bottom, from left to right. If there are any values or numbers, you need to understand them. For example, if it's a percentage, you look at the percentages that they're covering from 0 to 50% or 0 to 75%. You need to mention this. It's always worth mentioning. If it's in hours, if it's in days, weeks, whatever. If there is a value, make sure it is mentioned. Okay? And then if you want, and this is really optional but not necessary, I need you to note a few uniques if you want some comparisons or any information that really stands out after you have interpreted the information from top to bottom, left to right. Okay? Now, when the beep comes, you speak when you hear it, and the first thing you're going to say is that you have identified the image. The given image is a BAM. This is not a template. This is you giving ChatGPT a prompt. That's what you got to think of it as. Okay? It is about, you can provide the title or the scene. If there's no title, you can make up a title. Next, you are going to describe the image in the form of a ChatGPT prompt. The more detail you give it, not pointless detail, the more proper detail you give it, the better the image is that ChatGPT produces. Okay? Exactly what you see is exactly what you are going to say. And you can even test this by taking an image, not giving it to ChatGPT, and describing that image to ChatGPT and seeing if ChatGPT can come up with an image similar to it. Okay? So let's say it is a pie chart, and you'll say the given image is a pie chart showing the birth rates of people in different states in a certain country for a certain year. On the left hand side, or you can say beginning with, okay, there are no templates. You cannot use a template. Okay? The other thing I have noticed with many, many other tutors is that they do allow repetition of content. I do not want you to repeat content. Everything you say requires a purpose. If you're looking at an image, if you systematically describe it, you will not overlap information. Okay? Speak up to 35 seconds. If you find that you're about to start repeating yourself, just press stop and complete. Okay? No conclusions or final sentences are required. You can speak right up to the end of the 40 seconds and you will still get a full score. Remember, content is king. Okay? My sweet spot is between 35 and 38 seconds. And remember, as soon as you're done speaking, click submit, done, or next, or whatever. Just keep going. Okay? Do not let other people's voices get recorded. Okay, let's move on to summarize group discussion. I know we're powering it through it, but that's because there's a lot to cover. Okay, summarize group discussion. Again, what do you need to know? Second most important question type in the test. It contributes to 19% of your final speaking score and 20% of your final listening score. So 2 skills marked here. Okay, it's the sixth question type. You'll have to do this question 2 to 3 times. And what is the question? How is the question structured? Okay, you are given a recording of 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes long. The recording is of a conversation between three people. Okay, they don't all speak at the same time, but the conversation can go from one speaker to the next and back pretty quickly, like a regular conversation. Okay, after the recording, you have 10 seconds to prepare a quick summary of what the three of them spoke about. You are given 2 minutes to speak about their 3 minute conversation. Okay? Once again, we're going with a 6-5-5 scoring format, 6 for content, 5 for pronunciation, and 5 for fluency. So once again, content is king. Okay? Let's talk about the method. Right up? So the first thing you're going to do is when you realize it's a summarized group discussion question, you are going to prepare to write notes. Content is key. Divide your notepad into three separate spaces. Some people like to add a gender. The minute they hear a gender, they'll put female or male or whatever. You can do that. Okay? As soon as the recording starts, you start writing. Whatever rubbish you can write. Remember, there is no assessment in the scoring part of it for grammar. There is no assessment for logic. It's just content. Okay? So whatever words you catch from a single speaker, write it in his or her place. Okay? As the conversation jumps from one speaker to the next and back to the other, you just keep filling in each individual space with as much rubbish as you can. All right? There's a lot of nonsense in there. Okay? But you will quite often hear the certain things. Important information like I plan on seeing him next Friday. Feelings? I'm quite stressed out about the exam that's coming. And opinions? I believe it is important for us to study hard. Okay, you're going to hear these things, and all of it matters. Okay, don't think, oh, I'm listening out for keywords. There's nothing to listen for. Whatever you hear, write it down as fast as you can, as much as you can. Fill up each speaker's box with as much information as you can. Okay, let's move on. My aim for most of my students is 65% of the total content of what was said. If you can grasp about 65%, so forget about and I, forget about the short words, just big chunks. The bigger the big words, throw them all into that person's box. Okay? In the 10 seconds you are given to prep, review your notes. Now, this really matters when you have ugly handwriting. If you can't read your own handwriting, you're not going to be able to answer this question well. The same goes for Retell Lecture. Okay? You're going to quickly skim through your written notes and start off with an introductory sentence. And you will always have the same one. Three students were talking about how they failed an exam, or two students and a counselor were discussing their future plans. Okay? Plan the order in which you will talk about each speaker, right? So you can talk about it speaker one, speaker two, speaker three, or you can so take turns, or you can jump from speaker to speaker. You can do that. Whatever order in which you deliver the information is fine, as long as you deliver a large amount of content. Okay? So, in general, you must say which speaker said what. Don't just randomly spew information. Don't just randomly say speaker two said this when it gets confusing. Okay? Make sure that you have mentioned every single speaker in your 2 minutes. Okay? You can close off with an in the end or finally, but if you have found that you are speaking really badly and you're starting to repeat content, do not repeat content. Just press next, especially if you've passed the 1 minute and 30-second mark. Okay? So, the next thing we need to know is that when you're looking at your very, very quickly handwritten notes, there is no clarity because you suddenly go, oh my goodness, I can't read my own handwriting. We need you to speak as clearly as possible because we need the content score to go up. Don't worry about grammar. Don't worry too much about your content because you're just going to verbally vomit out all the words you're reading. And don't worry too much about fluency and pronunciation. Try to speak for 1 minute and 30 seconds. But I find if you have caught about 65% of what was said, you can hit the 1 minute 30-second mark very, very easily. Okay, let's move on to the third most important question type, which is repeat sentence. For a lot of you, this question type seems to cause a bit of strife because it requires you to remember a whole sentence and repeat it back to the microphone. Now, in real life, I cannot imagine ever assessing a student like this. I will never stop a student and go, did you hear what I said? Repeat it back to me, right? This is not the right way to assess somebody's level of English proficiency, but this is how Pearson does things. Okay? So, what you need to know, this is the third most important question type. It contributes to 16% of your final speaking score and 17% of your final listening score. It is the second question type, and you will have to do this 10 to 12 times. Okay? The sentence lengths can range from 3 to 5 seconds or 8 to 12 words in a sentence. Previously, there was no beep, there is a beep now. So the recording will play, there's a beep, and then you speak. Okay? This question is scored slightly differently. Instead of 6 for content, it's a 3. It's a 3-5-5. So 3 for content, 5 for pronunciation, and 5 for fluency. Okay? How do we get a high score? It's actually pretty difficult. Okay? This the main thing is I don't want you to be too hard on yourself. I don't want you to blame yourself or think that you don't have good English commands just because you can't regurgitate and repeat a sentence. Okay? The question type itself is flawed. Okay? Because AI listens out for English like words as opposed to English words. Okay? So, prepare to listen. Don't attempt to write notes or move forward to hear better. Just don't move. Keep your head nice and still. Make sure your microphone is perfectly placed. You're going to listen to the entire sentence as carefully as possible. It's okay if you don't understand everything you hear. As soon as you hear the beep, say every word you can remember. And it does not matter in which order you say it. Okay? You are not being assessed for grammar. Nowhere in the scorecard are they saying they're assessing your grammar, right? They're assessing you for content, fluency, and pronunciation. Very carefully repeat every word that you can remember as smoothly as you can remember it. For example, if the sentence was John went to the library yesterday and you can't remember the full thing, you went John library yesterday went to, AI is still going to catch it. It's not wrong. You have repeated every word in the sentence. They didn't tell me in which order I had to repeat it, right? Again, question type is inherently flawed. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about Retell Lecture. What do you need to know? It's the fourth question type in the speaking part of the test, and it contributes to 13% of your final speaking score and 13% of your final listening score. Okay, once again, it is a 655 question type, which means content is king. You will hear a lecture of up to 90 seconds, and then you're given 10 seconds to prep, and then you hear a beep, and you're given 40 seconds to give us a recount of that lecture. Okay, remember, I always say content is king. Let's go through the method. The tute for this from last year is still totally valid. Let's talk about it. All right. Make sure you're positioned beautifully to write, whether you're writing on a piece of paper using a pen or pencil, or using your erasable notepad, which is pretty useless. Okay? You are going to write as soon as the speaker starts, whatever you hear. Okay? Some tutors will say, listen and write, and listen and write. We're not going to do that. We're going to be efficient. We're going to just write whatever we can catch. Okay? Then leave out words like I, they, so, but, if. Short words are not important. Catch all the big words that you can, okay? And make a giant word soup. In the 10 seconds, you're going to mentally compile the word soup into sentences. They don't need to be logical, they don't need to be grammatically correct, and they do not need to make sense. They don't need to be coherent. You can sound like a complete drunk person talking. It doesn't matter. AI is not marking your grammar or logic. Okay? Focus purely on delivering your content fluently and clearly. That's all you need to do. Okay, so go back and watch the tute for Retell Lecture. It's absolutely valid still. Okay, let's move on. Read aloud. Oh my goodness, I love read aloud questions. They're excellent. So, what do we need to know? It is the first question type that you will encounter in the test. Again, I would never assess a student's English proficiency ability by asking him to read a passage out loud. That's not how I would test somebody, but here we are. Okay, it contributes to 9% of your final speaking score and 4% of your final overall score, right? It used to contribute to reading, it no longer does that. You'll have to do this question type 6 to 7 times. It is pretty exhausting, right? You're given 30 to 40 seconds to read the text based on the length, and then you will hear a beep. You are then required to read the text aloud, exactly word for word as it is shown, right? And when we have, for those of us who have kids, you will find that your kids come home and they are required to read out loud to you, and you will see that you are constantly stopping them from adding words or dropping words in their text when they are reading out loud to you. So while it is great, it's still not something I would use for assessment. Okay, it's great for practice. This question type is scored for, once again, the 655 method based on but this can vary, right? Content can vary from 6 to maybe 2, whatever, but it's based on the total number of words in the text. 5 for pronunciation and 5 for fluency. How do we answer this question type? Let's talk about it. So you're going to use your prep time really wisely. So you'll have a minimum of 25 seconds. You're going to skim through the text to identify the following things. Words that you cannot pronounce. You look at it and you go, oh my goodness, I just can't. I can't do this. And then you're going to look at places within the text which require natural pauses. And these are places where there are commas and full stops, right? You are then going to read out loud as clearly and consistently as possible, skipping only the words that you cannot pronounce. Only those words. Please don't do any rubbish one sentence things, none of that. You only drop the words that you definitely cannot pronounce. Every other word that is in the text, make an attempt, and if you make a mistake, you do not self correct, you do not hesitate, and you do not restart. You just keep reading at a steady pace. Okay? Next, we're going to this seventh question type in the speaking test, and when you see this question type pop up, you will know that it is the end of the speaking test, right? It contributes 13% to your final speaking score and only 6% to your final overall score. You will have to do the respond to a situation question type 2 to 3 times. And it is the best question type. There is a tutorial for this and it is very valid. It's my favorite tute because I really love the respond to a situation question because an everyday scenario will be presented, both in audio form and in text. This text can be up to 60 words long. And once the audio finishes, you have 10 seconds to prepare a spoken response. You will have 40 seconds to speak. Once again, we are going 655, so content is king. 6 for content, 5 for pronunciation, and 5 for fluency. Your aim is to get 16. Okay? Now, how do we do the respond to a situation question? You are most welcome to go back to the respond to a situation tute, but here is the method, anyways. First thing you're going to do is you're going to begin reading the prompt as soon as the page loads. You don't wait until you hear the audio. You just start reading the page. Okay? Start preparing a response as soon as you have read and understood the prompt. This is really important because the audio is going to play and distract you. We don't need that. If I can read, I can prepare a response. Okay? You're going to focus on who you're speaking to, why you're speaking to them, how you came about needing to speak to them, how the situation can be resolved, and if there's a question or request at the end. Okay, so you're going to follow the who are you meant to be speaking to, why are you attempting to speak to them, what is the main point of why you're speaking to them, and how the situation can be resolved. Okay, as soon you do not need to write notes for this question type. As soon as you hear the beep, you are going to directly address the person or people that you are speaking to using the prompt with no extra notes written down, okay? You are going to expand on your response following the who, why, what, how, ask method. One idea is if, let's say, the prompt includes the fact that you have left your jacket in the library and you need to go pick it up, when you talk about your jacket, you can be descriptive and use adjectives. I left my purple jacket in the library, okay? The more you expand while sticking to the prompt, the higher your content score. Okay, now let's move on to the final question type that we need to cover, the least important question type, answer short question. Answer short question does not even contribute to to your speaking anymore. It only contributes to your listening. 4% to your final listening score, and it is the least important question in the out of all 7. Okay? You will have to answer 5 to 6 short questions. You'll hear a prompt, which is about 3 to 9 seconds long. Okay, so a quick question like, what do you call an area where water is pulled intentionally using a building? A dam or whatever. Okay, there is no beep. You speak directly into the microphone and answer the question as soon as the prompt has been fully played. There is no real method, there is no magic to this. If you can answer it, answer it. The shorter the answer, the better. If you can't answer it, No worries. Just say something and move on. Okay? Now, to conclude. Okay, so these are my final thoughts that I want to leave you with. Content is king. It really matters. Okay? A lot of tutors will tell you fluency is king, content is king. Okay? You want to prove that you can speak English, you got to deliver the content. More importantly than you delivering fluency or English like words. Okay? Be clear, be precise, pronounce the words completely, and make sure AI can detect all consonants and vowels within each word. All right? We're going to be consistent, we're going to be constant, and remember that the AI is not, well, AI assessment is not real assessment. It's BS. If you can't actually understand a conversation and contribute it, you still do not have proper English proficiency. Okay? So if you have a friend that happened to score 90, but when they have a chat to a native English speaker, they just can't seem to communicate with them, it's clear that they have just learned how to game the AI as opposed to improve their English. Your main and final aim should always be to be a better communicator. Okay? So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for listening and thank you for being here. When we ended 2025, we only had 100 subscribers and now we have 134 and that's really lovely. Thank you so much for learning with me and for putting up with my angry rants. Sometimes I know I get a bit angry with Pearson. But yeah, I hope these tunes have been helpful and I hope to make some more soon.